Good morning and welcome to Speaking of Gas. This is a weekly look at what matters to you, the owner of oil and gas rights in Pennsylvania, and brought to you by the GasWellGuru. And this meeting is recorded and can be viewed on my YouTube channel. So today we're going to talk about what is a stacked play. This is somewhat prevalent in the Appalachian Basin. I did some searching around to find a good example of a stacked pad that was developed. And so we're going to talk about the Pettit pad this week in Greene County. And if you have questions about this, if you look at I'll make a note. If you have questions, if you look down to the lower right-hand corner of your screen, there's a triangle, circle, and square. And if you click on that, there is an option to type message or type questions into the question and answer box. And then hopefully, if that works like it should, I can at least answer those at the end or as we go if it's appropriate. Okay, so first let's take a look at where we are in Pennsylvania with this well. So if we zoom out, here's the southwest corner of Pennsylvania, Greene County, and it's Washington Township. And so I don't lose the well. It's just above Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. And if we identify the well here on Pettit Run, you'll see the tab that I have open shows that there are 16 wells on this pad. And all 16 of those wells are producing. And there are actually 3 different formations that have been developed on that pad. The next thing we'll take a look at is an actual photo of the pad. And this is actually a live view of the Greene County tax parcel application. And so hopefully I don't lose anything. You can see these are all individual tax parcels. If you click on those, it'll bring up who the property owner is, and you see the last name is Pettit here. And there's the pad. And then this looks like a water impoundment here. And it's a great picture, very recent photography, I would say. So here's what a pad looks like with 16 wells on it. And let's see, I'll just tell you a little bit from an aerial view what's on this. This is where the actual wellheads are. I'm pretty positive. And it's a separate wellhead for each well, each lateral they drilled. Now, I don't know if you saw last week's video where I talked about the new horseshoe pad. That was a case where there are actually 2 laterals, but developed from 1 vertical well bore. But that's really an exception at this point. So a separate wellhead for each one of these. These are water collection tanks here. And these wells have been producing a while. So, we're not seeing a lot of these water collection tanks. This is just for produced water. And then over here, we also have water storage tanks. And these are more of the permanent nature that they come in and draw off from regularly when the water trucks come in for maintenance. And then these would be, I believe, individual, possibly compressors on those wells. So actually a pretty neat operation there. There's not drilling going on right now. So this is kind of what it looks like after things are cleaned up. You can see the access road coming in, etc. And again, this is on the Greene County Tax Parcel app. Okay, so on this pad, we have 1 Utica, 2 Point Pleasant, and 13 Marcellus wells. And okay, admitting someone to the call. Okay, so let's just pull up that spreadsheet quickly. Maybe that spreadsheet. Let's see. Cat wells. I think this is it. Okay, this is a report that I pulled together of the wells for just this pad. So you can see got 13 Marcellus wells here, 1 Utica, 2 Burkett, and there were 2 Burkett wells permitted that were not drilled on that pad. And then when you go all the way over, you can see that they were, let's see, I had that written down, that the first Marcellus wells were drilled in February of 2012 and then later in December of 2013, so almost 2 years apart. And then we have 3 wells, a Marcellus, 2 Marcellus, a Utica, and the Burkett drilled in 2015. So they were drilled over a period of 4 years, and each unique permit numbers, each have unique production. And so just as I usually do, I have put in how many million cubic feet per day these wells are producing. And you can see that the production is, in the low ranges now. The more recent ones are a little less than 2 million cubic feet a day. This is the last production report. And the older wells are down to a fraction of 1 million cubic feet per day. And that's typical for wells that were drilled a number of years ago. And I would say at this point, we're still looking at older technology. So I did not pull up individual production reports for cumulative reports for each well. Okay, so let's see what we're going to look at next. So we're going to look at the, let's see, made some notes here. We're going to look at some location plats. And this is the location plat for the Marcellus well. And I'm pulling up one. And the reason is, what I want to say is, we'll take a look at the depth that these various formations are at. Now, I should have probably pulled up Burkett first, but for this Marcellus, you can see that the vertical depth is at about 7,600 feet, a little bit more. And that's what is typical for these Marcellus wells on this pad. And the particular laterals were about 7,000 feet. And so when you, okay, and this is, I'll say, an EQT well. And again, this is a location plat. They're not showing any of the boundaries of property owners in that area. So in order to know if that wellbore is intersecting your property, you need to plot that on a map with the property boundaries using the coordinates that are given there. So a lot of companies are make this easy to read for everyone, including the owner of the oil and gas rights. In this case, it's not. But this shows the trajectory of that wellbore on that pad. If you look at this, and this shows on all the location plats for the wells on this pad, they are showing the various wells and their location on that pad. And if you remember the picture that we had, it looks like this with the well bores set up in a line. And then if you go on down to the side view of the well, this is where they're drilling the vertical and down to a kickoff point. And here they're landing in the Marcellus and drilling the lateral. Now, it's interesting because when I looked this up, the Geneseo, well, and they have that noted on here. The Geneseo is the Burkett, where the Burkett formation is, and they're only a couple hundred feet apart. So the other lateral would be here. And then in a minute, we're going to look at a Utica pad. So what you envision from that side view is that you're going to have wells at 3 levels here from different well bores. Now let's take a look at the Utica pad. And, well, I'll do the Burkett first. Okay, so this is the Burkett location plat. And of course, these all look the same because we have the surface location. The circle again represents the area where they're going to test water wells. So you see little W's in there with a circle around them, and that shows you that there's a water well that needs to be tested within that area. And again, this one is a little more complete, shows all 16 wells. And then this is the trajectory of the Burkett well. And the proposed lease production allocation area, if that's the actual unit, and I didn't look up a unit declaration for these, if that's the actual unit, that certainly would appear to me to be a gerrymandered unit. But, you know, what we may find is that we've got a lateral that maybe goes here, and then maybe we've got short laterals in here as the reason. But we have to actually download those unit declarations to know that. And so again, here's the side view, and they're showing where they're encountering the Genesee formation, and then 7,600, which was down in this area, was the Marcellus. The Onondaga formation is always noted because, if you recall me mentioning before, whether a well is a conservation well or not depends on whether it's below the Onondaga horizon. And these, the Genesee or Burkett in this case, you notice they're calling it Genesee up here. They're also calling it Genesee. But when you pull up the Burkett formation report, that they're included there. So these formations can have different names depending on the location in the Appalachian Basin, across the country, or a particular operator, what they choose to call it. Okay, so we talked about the Onondaga horizon, and this appears to be, let's see, a second, I didn't look at this one in detail. 811. Okay, so we actually have a second permit that looks much different here. And I would have to look into this, why it's here like this, because it definitely is a different trajectory. And, you know, if this company were showing all the location plats, I would be able to tell if they changed their approach to the well, which is probably what it is, from the here, or if they or if it indeed is the same well, same trajectory. They can't deviate very much from a permit without applying for a new one. And I'll just note here, I've talked about this at other times when I've shown location plats. Here, they're drilling down to this, what they're calling a kickoff point. And they're actually drilling in the opposite direction and then curving around. And again, you notice that they're landing in the formation underneath the well bore and starting the lateral from there. And they're only going to frack from the landing point out. So this allows them to not strand gas within that, under that well pad. There's a reason for doing that. So they may have changed that beginning trajectory to accommodate that. So that's the Burkett well. Now we'll go back and take a look at the Utica well. And that is this one, okay. I worked a little bit on being able to identify my documents here a little more easily. Again, same surface plat for the water wells, but here, now this was interesting because the target formations, it says horizontal is the Point Pleasant. The Point Pleasant is, you know, in the Utica realm, they'll call those Utica wells, and then vertical Black River. And so it appears that they were, it says deepest formation to be penetrated. They may have been going into the Black River and then backing up to do the lateral in the Point Pleasant. And it's noted that way on here. And those things will all be clear in the completion report, or should be. So again, a difference here is that on their permit, because this is a Utica well and it's below the Onondaga horizon, they have to demonstrate, see this says that there's a 330-foot buffer. That's this dotted line. And you'll see this with all Utica wells, 330-foot buffer. And they're saying on their permit that they have all the landowners within that buffer, all the mineral owners, leased. Now, the problem is that they don't show who you are on there. And so I have a major problem with that not being clearly demonstrated on this diagram, because how do you know? And I have seen a couple instances of where they've said on a permit, yes, we do. And I know for a fact they don't have everything leased. Now, they're not actually trespassing until they drill the well. So if the owner of the oil and gas rights signs their acreage that's within that buffer before they actually drill the well, then there's no trespass. But if they drill that well before, then that's a different issue. And definitely want to be seeing an attorney about that if that's the case. But like I said, you can't clearly see if that's the case for you or not. Now, when they apply for the permit, if they're checking the box that they are all leased and they're not, well, I guess you would say that they've lied on the permit. And what the implications there are, I don't know. I'm not an attorney, but eventually I'm sure there's going to be a challenge to that. So this is the side view, and this one does appear to be a little more difficult to see, but showing the vertical coming down, and they denote, let's see, elk. Okay, they're not denoting the Onondaga horizon here, but it's clearly below it, and the permit would reflect that. Showing the kickoff point here at 12,000 feet. And I didn't make that note, but let's see. So the landing point, top of the Point Pleasant, top of the Utica is 13,000 feet. The Point Pleasant, 13,270. And then they've also denoted here the Trenton and then there's Trenton, and then there's Black River. So it also shows Pilot Hole. If you look down here, I don't know how easy it is. I'll blow this up. Okay, the Pilot Hole ends right here. So when we look at the completion report on this one, they may just do this part of it and the lateral, or they may actually go to this point that's a straight drill, and they may have taken or be taking core samples from that to test these formations. But in any case, they're going to back up and do the curve and then drill the horizontal, and they did, because this well is producing. Although like I said, I didn't look at the completion reports. So if you look, we go back and kind of look at the whole picture. You've got a well here in the Utica. And then up here, you've got two formations, a total of 13 Marcellus, 13 in the Marcellus at 7,600, 2 in the Burkett at about 7,400, and then 1 in the Utica. So that's what a stacked play looks like. Because of the way, and I have not plotted those yet, because of the way they do these location plats, the page 3 of the location plat, you can't tell where each of these well bores are. Now, I didn't look back to see if there's an area of review summary to be able to pinpoint that, but that's a big issue here with them not showing parcels as far as what the landowners are, how the landowners are affected. Okay, let's see if there was anything else I needed to share there. If you have any questions, please type them in the question box, and I'd be happy to try to answer those. I think I've shown all the documents that I had for this. Let me just share my screen and see if I can show you where the questions and answers are. Okay. All right. So, always dangerous when you do this. But if you look, if you look, don't share your, just a different window. Okay, so let me try that again. All right, let me just try to share a window. I know people have had trouble getting that up, the question and answer box. So let me see if I can help. Presenting your screen. Well, I don't know if this is working, but okay, right over here is where you would click to pull up the question and answer screen and type a question in. And you have permission to do that if anyone has any questions. So I'm not seeing any questions. Certainly, people do email me my questions or give me a call after the video, and I always welcome them. And I hope this was interesting. It certainly was to me. I'd seen this pad years ago, came upon it by accident, and had to do a little research to find it again, which one had the stacked play on it. There are, I want to say, about 181, I think was the number, Burkett wells producing or drilled in Pennsylvania. And I think the number was 331 Utica wells. And, you know, the reasons for a stacked play, and a stacked play, I'll also mention, can mean something else. It doesn't have to be different formations. if you look at the Marcellus in Susquehanna County over in that core area, and I just don't know about southwestern PA because I haven't looked at that, but up in the Northeast, we have very thick Marcellus. So you're talking maybe 400 feet, and they are drilling multiple layers. So the Marcellus itself can be a stacked play. It's just drilling multiple layers within the column of formations, whether it's within a thick formation or different formations. At some point, I guess maybe we'll take a look at the unit declarations possibly that go with these particular wells. Interestingly, where I said there was a lot of information missing from those location plats, same company has a lot of information missing from unit declarations, and that is an issue for you as a person who owns oil and gas rights. So thanks for joining me today. Same link will work every Thursday. All my webcasts are up on YouTube with some descriptions typed with them. And you can tune in each week for new topics. Unless, if you subscribe, I do send out a notice if I have canceled for some reason. But typically a new topic every week. And then, as always, consider joining the Pennsylvania Oil and Gas Landowner Alliance. We're getting ready for a big conference at the end of April, and we're going to have a long slate of speakers talking on a lot of topics that are relevant to you as an owner of oil and gas rights. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.